For today's video, I have flown all the way to South Korea to sample the all-new 2019 Kia K900. This is Kia's flagship sedan worldwide, and it's known in other markets as the Kia K9. For logical reasons, Kia decided to add a couple of zeros to the name for English-speaking countries. This is a full-size luxury sedan, even though Kia is not a luxury marquee in America. Like Kia's brand new Stinger, this is a rear-wheel drive biased vehicle, but in America, this will only come one way, with a turbocharged engine and all-wheel drive. Before we go much further, let's answer the question that a lot of people are asking. Why is Kia making a full-size luxury sedan for the American market? Well, to be honest, it didn't cost too much to bring it to America because they already designed this vehicle for South Korea and other world markets, so why not just bring that existing car to the United States? The K900 is relatively popular here in South Korea. It also does quite well in the Middle East. But those markets are a little bit different than America, of course, where in the United States we tend to expect a luxury car to have a separate brand from its more mainstream brothers. You can think of the K900 as sort of a marketing exercise or an engineering exercise for the American market. Obviously, Kia does not think they're going to sell tens of thousands of these models in America, but they're doing it to prove the kind of vehicle that Kia is capable of designing and of building. So while some companies will spend millions of dollars advertising their brand, Kia has decided instead to put that money into a car that you can actually buy. So in a way, think of this also as a rolling billboard for the Kia brand. That's exactly what's going on right here. In terms of competition, think of the K900 as an upgrade from something like a Toyota Avalon or an alternative to a Lexus ES. This is likely going to be priced in the mid-50,000s, topping out right around 60,000 or just below. So that means this is going to be a little bit more expensive than a Chrysler 300, but it's much nicer on the inside. This is about the same price as a BMW 340i all-wheel drive, but you get a vehicle that's about the same size as a short wheelbase 7 Series or Jaguar XJ. Up front, the K900 definitely has styling cues borrowed from other Kia models, including this tiger nose grille here, but it definitely looks larger and more luxurious than the rest of the Kia lineup. The grille is not as square as I've come to expect from Kia, so be sure and let me know what you think about that down there in the comments section below. I'm not sure if I like this front end as much as the first generation K900, but I have to admit that it is growing on me. We have standard full LED headlamps on each side right here, with daytime running lamp strips right there in the modules as well. The bottom one turns into a turn signal, and in Korea and other world markets, this is a progressive turn signal. However, in the United States, that won't happen because of the way American headlamp laws work. Categorizing Kia's brand new flagship is a little bit tricky, not just because this is a luxury car without a luxury car logo on the front, but also because of its overall size. At 201.6 inches long, this is about the same size as a short wheelbase Jaguar XJ. Of course, in America, most full-size luxury cars are available only in their long wheelbase format. So if you buy a Mercedes-Benz S-Class, for instance, or the brand new BMW 7 Series, those come only in a form that's a bit longer than what we're seeing here. This is notably longer than a BMW 5 Series. It's about 6 inches longer overall with a longer wheelbase. This is also about 3 inches longer than a Chrysler 300, which you could consider a more mainstream alternative. As you might have guessed, the basic components that make up the K900 are related to the Genesis G90, but this is a little bit shorter. In terms of overall length, this actually comes somewhat between the G80 and the G90, although it's priced more like the smaller Genesis. Out back, you'll find full LED tail lamp modules with shapes that mimic what's going on with the front headlamp modules. The turn signals are down here, and as you can see on that side, they're amber progressive turn signals for world markets. We don't know whether that will make it to the United States, however. The progressive nature is very unlikely to make it to the US, again because of US headlamp and tail lamp laws, but it may actually be able to be an amber lamp in the United States. In an interesting twist, the center section of this turn signal right here closest to the trunk lid turns into the backup light when you put the car in reverse. We're told not to expect that for the US, however. There's likely going to be a reverse lamp lower on the rear bumper. Again, we are driving the Korean spec version. In the United States, all models will have the twin integrated exhausts. Some of you on Facebook were asking about these chrome rings around the rear tail lamp modules. Let me know what you think about them down there in the comment section below. I think they do stick out a little bit much on the darker colored K900s, but on the lighter colors, I think it actually works quite well. Where you're watching this video will determine what engine you'll find under the hood. Things will start out in some markets with a 3.3-liter naturally aspirated V6 engine producing 246 horsepower. Then we get a 3.8-liter V6 producing 311 horsepower and a 5-liter V8 producing 419. Of course, for the United States, we're only getting one engine, and it's this 3.3-liter twin-turbo V6. Basically the same engine that we find under the hood of the Kia Stinger. It produces 365 horsepower and 376 pound-feet of torque, and it's mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission standard. We don't know what EPA fuel economy will be like yet, however expect this to be 1 or 2 miles per gallon lower than the Stinger. Front seat comfort is very good in the K900. These seats are very adjustable for a car with this price tag. And even when you compare this to more expensive vehicles, it still scores very well. We have a power extending thigh cushion, a 2-position memory over there on that side. There's also a memory link tilt telescopic steering column. Now it's worth noting that even though the passenger seat is very comfortable and very adjustable, it doesn't have quite the same range of motion as the driver's seat. As you'd expect out of a large luxury vehicle, the rear seats are very generously sized. I have about a foot of legroom left sitting right there behind myself. And unlike many mid-sized sedans in America, I have a generous amount of headroom as well. I have about an inch left back here. So if you're looking at something like an Avalon or even a Kia Cadenza, something in that category, or something like a Lincoln MKZ or Acura TLX, which would be almost the same price as this vehicle, they don't have as much headroom in the back, so if you're really looking for that more comfortable rear seat experience, or you just have a family of taller people, this is going to be a good option. And again, that's one of the reasons that most people would want to buy a full-size luxury car instead of a mid-size luxury car. Moving to the middle seat, this is higher off the ground than the outboard seating positions, but because of the generous headroom, my head is not touching the ceiling. I have about half an inch left, although my hair is definitely touching the ceiling. Moving over to the right side of the car, this front seat is all the way back at its tracks. I still have about 6 inches of legroom left. Rear seat comfort was obviously one of the big goals in the K900, and that's why we find powered seats back here. But we have a little bit more motion on the right side rear seat than the left side rear seat, because this is where someone could be more comfortable. You can move the passenger seat further forward and sit back here, have a little bit more of a range of motion. The rear seats are both heated and ventilated, and then we get a wireless charging mat back here, which I think is kind of a nice touch. We have side window shades, a powered rear window shade, and this model has a rear seat entertainment system. This is linked with what we see going on there in the dashboard, so you can see the navigation mapping interface, the audio interface, etc., but it's unlikely to come to the United States. So if you want rear seat entertainment in the US, you'll have to move to something different or buy your rear seat passengers iPads. Taking a quick spin around the interior, we have a suede headliner. We have a pretty standard sized moonroof. So you can see right there, this is not one of the panoramic designs we see in other Kia models. The rear seat passengers get vanity mirrors that pop out of the ceiling right over there. The driver and the front passenger have height adjustable seatbelts and power adjusted 4-way headrests. All of the K900s coming to America will feature Napa leather upholstery. We also get real wood trim inside every model, contrasting stitching as you can see right over there. As you'd expect in a luxury vehicle, the B-pillars as well as the front doors are entirely coated in soft touch materials. We have plenty of stitched leather on the upper side, stitched leather inserts right there that are perforated to match what's going on the seats, leather armrest right there, as well as machined speaker grills. As we see in some of the European competition, even the passenger seat offers a 2-position memory function. The ring around that speaker in the middle of the front doors is tied with the ambient lighting system that also offers a lit section right there below that armrest. You can choose between several colors that were picked by Kia, or you can actually specify your own color in the infotainment menu. The dashboard features a stitched upper section, sort of a shiny middle section right there by that air vent, then more of this real wood trim. And kind of an interesting twist, most of the wood trim actually faces up in this sort of horizontal arc right there from the dashboard on over to the doors. There are several different wood trims available. The one that's in this particular vehicle is called an engineered wood. This actually is still real wood. What Kia means by engineered is they actually take various layers of real wood trim and then they cut through them on kind of a diagonal and then polish them to create this multi-layered appearance. In the middle of the dashboard, we have probably the widest implementation of Apple CarPlay that I have ever seen. This system also features Android Auto if you're interested. This has the latest version of Kia's infotainment and navigation system. Factory navigation is, of course, standard, as you can see right there. And because this system features a built-in cellular modem, we have the latest connected car features that you can control via an app on your smartphone. If you'd like to know more about this infotainment system, you should probably wait until we can get our hands on the American-themed version, because this system, again, is not the American version. Moving down from there, we have a few physical buttons. We have 2 large air vents, a Swiss timepiece right there in the middle of the dashboard, controls for the front heated and ventilated seats, as well as 2 levels of heating for the steering wheel, temperature up and down, auto zone right there. Moving down from there, we have a leather-covered center console. There's just about enough room here for an iPhone 7 Plus to fit in. We also have a 12-volt power port, an auxiliary input, and a wireless charging mat right below there. Between the front seats, we find an electronic shifter, drive us all the way to the back. We have a drive mode button, auto brake hold, a knob controller for the infotainment and navigation system. You can use either this knob arrangement or you can actually touch the screen even while in motion. Over here on this side, we have 2 large cup holders. Behind that, we have a button to engage and disengage the 360-degree camera system, raise and lower the rear sunshade, and engage and disengage the front and rear parking sensors. Moving back from there, we have a center armrest that is split in 2. We press a button right here to open it up, and then we get 2 power ports in there and a moderate amount of storage room. This uses basically the same key that we find in the Kia Stinger, but there's also a slimline pocket key that you can easily put in your wallet, sort of like a really thick credit card, and then you don't have to carry that one with you. The model that we're looking at has a full LCD instrument cluster. We're not exactly sure if this is coming to the United States or not. This has several different modes. They can either be linked or unlinked to the drive mode. So if we are linked to the drive mode, we have a sport view, an eco view, and a custom view, where you can choose whichever one you like the most. Obviously, we have turn-by-turn navigation directions, trip computer information, and the status of our active safety systems displayed right here in this LCD. The steering wheel design is quite different than other Kia models in America. We have this interesting sort of W-shaped section of real wood trim inside of the steering wheel. This kind of reminds me a little bit of certain generation S-Class models. It is a leather-wrapped round steering wheel with sport grips up top, and then we have infotainment controls over here on the left, volume up and down, track up and down, dedicated phone buttons, voice command button, and mode button. And then on this side, we have the buttons for the cruise control and that multifunction LCD. As you'd expect out of a luxury car, we have shift paddles on the back of the steering wheel, down on the left, and up on the right. Keeping in mind that out here we are driving the Korean spec K9, which has been tuned differently than the American-bound K900, I actually really like the way this vehicle drives. It's an awful lot softer than I had expected. Now, obviously Kia tells us that it will be firmed up and changed a little bit for the American market, but half of me really wishes that Kia wouldn't do that, because I actually prefer a softer, more comfortable large sedan, especially in the luxury segment, when this is trying to be a replacement, at least a less expensive replacement, for your existing Lexus LS or perhaps a BMW 7 Series. Some might scoff at the comparisons between this and a full-size luxury sedan, and if that's you, then maybe you want to look at this a little bit differently. This is the kind of vehicle that you could see as an upgrade from a compact luxury sedan, because in terms of overall price, this will be in about the same range as a BMW 340i, perhaps an Audi S4. But this is going to give you the features that we find in a full-size luxury sedan in a package that's somewhere between a BMW 5 Series and a BMW 7 Series. As I've said before, the concept of value luxury may be foreign to some people, because part of buying a luxury car really is buying that brand. However, I think that there is value in buying something that flies a little bit under the radar, and if that's you, then again, this would be a good option to choose from. Or you could look at this another way. If you're shopping for an Acura RLX or a Lexus ES or perhaps even something like a Chrysler 300, this is a serious upgrade from those options. The twin-turbo V6 that we find under the hood should get you from 0 to 60 in about 5.2 seconds. That's based on our time with the identical engine in the Kia Stinger or the Genesis G80 Sport. In terms of overall feel, the K900 definitely drives like a full-size luxury sedan. So this doesn't feel quite as tight, quite as small out on the road as something like a 5 Series or a Mercedes-Benz E-Class. Now that's logical because, again, this was designed to compete with those larger vehicles. In terms of overall handling ability, however, this should outhandle something like an Acura TLX or a Lincoln MKZ or pretty much anything in a similarly priced front-wheel drive biased package like those near luxury competitors. This is also likely going to outhandle a Lexus ES, even that brand new Lexus ES for 2019 that we're expecting to see very soon. That's of course because, like the Kia Stinger, this has a strong rear wheel bias, and we actually have pretty big tires out back. They put 275 width tires in all models, even though again we have that standard all-wheel drive system. In terms of overall ride quality, I rate that very good in this model. We have been spending a great deal of time out here on the outskirts of Seoul, driving on fairly rough roads, and this is very comfortable. Now, we do have an adaptive suspension system, so I can switch this over to the sport mode and it will firm things up. As its name would suggest, the custom mode allows you to customize vehicle settings, so you can choose between 4 different engine and transmission behavior combos. You can adjust the effort of the steering wheel. This is electric power steering, of course. You can adjust the suspension in 3 different drive modes, and you can actually adjust the way the all-wheel drive system behaves as well. Like the all-wheel drive system that we find in the Kia Stinger and, of course, modern Jaguar Land Rover products, This all-wheel drive system will send power front to rear, not just based on traction, but also based on the drive mode and your user selection. So if you're in the sport mode, it's going to try and send more power to the rear, but maintain some power to the front in order to aid in sportier handling dynamics. If you choose the eco mode, then it will actually try and send most of the power to the rear axle in order to help improve fuel economy and reduce frictive losses. But if you choose the regular mode, then it actually is going to balance power a little bit more equitably front to rear. That's going to give you better traction on snow, on ice, or on wet road surfaces. Even though we haven't been driving this on our usual home turf, it's easy to say that this cabin is definitely very, very quiet. That's something that we saw in the last generation K900 and also the related Genesis G90. This is likely going to be in the 68 to 69 decibel range once we get this home. Now, while it's easy to talk about cabin noise, it is not easy to talk about fuel economy, because this display is giving us fuel economy in metric, of course, and we're driving a Korean spec vehicle in Korea, not on our own usual test course. That said, at the moment we have been averaging about 10 kilometers per liter, so I'll go ahead and post that conversion up there above my head so you can see what that is in normal American units. In a nutshell, the K900 feels like a solid and stable large luxury car. This feels a little bit more like a Mercedes-Benz or a BMW actually out on the road than the current generation Lexus LS. And I think that's really high praise for the Kia brand. This is actually a little bit more engaging out on the road than the Genesis G90, which again is relatively closely related. Some people complained that the Genesis G90 didn't feel quite right when compared with the rest of the luxury competition. But when developing this vehicle, they actually had access to a different set of engineers. A number of engineers have recently been hired from major European car companies, and they've really been helping Kia and Hyundai both tune their vehicles to be more like some of the European competition, and that is definitely noticeable in the new K900. But this is not an exact copy of a European luxury sedan, and that's actually something that I really like, because this is tuned a little bit softer, a little bit more comfortable, and I think a little bit more livable. If I was shopping for a full-size luxury sedan, something like this really would fit me better. I really appreciate the way the K900 is tuned, the way the Volvo S90 is tuned, and of course the way the brand new LS500 is tuned. But it's worth noting that this is actually significantly less expensive than the Volvo or the Lexus. As I said at the beginning, we don't yet have pricing information for the 2019 K900, but Kia has given us a few clues. They expect this to be in the mid-50,000s, definitely under 60,000 they're telling us for the top line model. That will make the base version more expensive than the existing K900, but the top end version actually less expensive than what we see now. In the United States at the moment, the K900 is available with either a V6 or a V8 engine, but those are actually not coming to the US for 2019. Kia has also told us that they're tightening up the options list a little bit, so this will either come as a mono-spec vehicle, so you just pick the color and it only comes one way, or it's possible that there may be one option package, which is likely going to be the powered rear seats. That will mean that the K900 will be equipped like a BMW 740i or perhaps a 750i, but it's actually going to be about $40,000 less. It's going to be priced more like a BMW 340i. This is probably going to be about $5,000 to $10,000 more than a Chrysler 300. The big question you have to ask yourself before you take a look at something like the K900 is, how much does the luxury brand mean to you? Because obviously brand is a big part of any luxury vehicle purchase. If you're looking for all the luxury trappings, all the fit and finish details, the excellent interior, the comfortable seats, all the gadgets and gizmos that a luxury car would normally give you, but you don't care so much about the brand, then this could save you tens of thousands of dollars in the United States. If, however, you really just want a BMW or a Mercedes logo on the front, then obviously this isn't going to satisfy that desire. Again, this interior really is built to the same level as many full-size luxury sedans in America. This really does very well when pitted against even the brand new Lexus LS500. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. Be sure and let me know what you think about the brand new K900 down there in the comment section below. Hit that subscribe button down there if you haven't already done so. You can also hit that button up at the top of your screen in order to be taken over to our patreon.com page. I'll see you next week.